Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. I will just give attendees a few moments to join, and then we'll get started. We're just giving people one more moment to join, and then we'll get started with the presentation and the question and answer session. Right, we're a couple of minutes in, so let's get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on transport and access. My name is Ben Miller, and I'll be hosting tonight's session. This is our third technical webinar and is on the subject of access and infrastructure. Last week, we hosted a webinar on moorland restoration and peatland protection. And the week before that was a webinar on the matter of noise and shadow flicker. The purpose of these webinars is to give members of the public direct access to the expert technical team that are working on the project. And for those that were unable to attend, both of those recordings are available on our website, and tonight's recording will be uploaded in due course. Before I hand over to colleagues to introduce themselves, I wanted to outline tonight's format for those who haven't attended previously. Firstly, we'll have a short presentation from the team on the technical details of the topics we're covering, and then that will be followed by a question and answer session. For those that have not attended a webinar previously, you can submit your questions using the Q&A facility, and please do get your questions in as the presentation goes on. We have until 7 p.m. tonight or until we run out of questions from the public, so please do get them in as we go. We're happy to answer general questions about the project as well as technical questions about access and infrastructure, but other technical questions on wider topics may have to be taken away to the technical team and responded to separately. Lastly, before we get started, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the wider community for its engagement in recent weeks. This consultation period launched on the 25th of March and comes to a close on the 29th of April. This by no means marks the end of the conversation. The website, email address, and phone number will all remain active to answer any questions that people might have. Since the start of the second phase of the consultation, our website has been viewed over 20,000 times. Over 60,000 people have seen our Facebook adverts, and we've posted out around 20,000 leaflets. We've held 5 exhibitions in Bacup, Norden, Whitworth, Calp, and yesterday we were in Edenfield. And across those, we've had over 200 people through the door. Taking the exhibitions and webinars as a whole, the project team have spent over 30 hours conversing with the community, and we're incredibly grateful to those who've given up their time to come and learn more about their proposals. We hope that you found the consultation informative and the conversations with the team as constructive as we have. I'll now hand over to the team to introduce themselves, starting with Pete.
Thanks, Ben. Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Peter Rowe. I'm from Cubico and I'm the development manager. Effectively, that means I'm the day-to-day project lead. For those that don't know about Cubico, we're a renewable energy company. We develop, invest and operate wind farms across the UK. We have 18 existing solar and wind farms that we operate, and then we're looking forward to sort of bringing forward the Scoutmore projects that will come forward in that portfolio and be another project that we operate in the UK. Gordon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, thank you very much. My name is Gordon Buchan. I'm Sector Director for Energy with Pell Frischman, and we're leading on the transport and access matters for the proposed wind farm.
Thank you. And I think this is a good time to start tonight's presentation. Gordon, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much. So get the hopefully everyone can see that. So grand. So I thought just give you a quick run through what we're going to cover today. We'll be looking at
Sorry, Gordon. The slides are not up at the moment.
right. Forgive me. How are we doing now?
Yeah, they're up now. Thank you.
There you are. Right, one false dawn. I'll try again. Thanks, technology. And it's now. It's now decided to. Oh, come on. There we go. Apologies for the technical hitches. So what we're going to cover today, we'll be discussing some of the general details regarding the turbine and the construction delivery, what you can expect during that construction period in terms of transport and access matters. We'll be outlining some of the measures to minimize disruption for residents, for businesses, and road users in the local area. And then we'll be talking a little bit about some of the lessons that have been learned from the original Scout Moor project, and then we'll be looking at, hopefully answering your questions or any questions that you may have. So to get into it, so the access strategy that we're looking at will be taking access from the A680 from the existing Scout Moor wind farm access junction. Now, this access junction will need to be improved and upgraded to suit the new turbines that are proposed for the site. So it's going to be slightly widened, but it will be the sole point of access for the construction traffic and when the site is operational for any maintenance and operational traffic going to and from the site. And road signage will be provided in the network to guide construction traffic as quickly and efficiently to the site as possible. You can see the study area roads in the figure there, and the red is the outline of the application boundary for the proposed wind farm. Moving on to construction traffic, the construction period is expected to take up to 24 months. A document called a transport assessment is being prepared and will be submitted as part of the planning application. When we undertake these studies and these documents, we have to assume a worst case scenario. So we have to assume that all stone, aggregate, concrete material is imported to the site from quarries and suppliers with the site itself. That is very much a worst case, but we are going to be exploring the local sourcing of material from Scout Moor Quarry, which will obviously remove quite a lot of traffic from the network if that is available. The impact of traffic on the road network will be assessed, and robust control measures are going to be implemented to make sure that traffic stays on the routes that are suitable for HGV traffic. And the principal document there is a construction traffic management plan, a CTMP. That will be prepared, and a draft report for that will be included within the transport assessment as part of the planning application. In addition, because there are a number of footways, public rights-of-way and bridleways on the site, an outdoor access management plan will also be provided, and both these documents will help ensure safe and responsible operations to protect all the users of the site. In regards to pathways and public rights-of-way, safe crossing points and facilities will be provided where the construction routes intersect existing paths, but we will not be using for construction access or the operational access historic bridleways and walking routes that are already on the site. They're not going to be used for us during the construction or operational phases of the development. Abnormal loads. So large turbine components will be delivered in convoys using specialist vehicles, and by law these are all escorted by the police. The turbine components such as blades, tower sections, the nacelle, which is the box at the top with the generator and all the gearing, and the hub where all the turbine rotors connect together, they're all classed as abnormal loads by law, and they will be escorted by the police. Up to 3 components will travel in each convoy, and we expect up to 57 convoys will operate on the network. The police support required for abnormal load movements is fully funded by the developer. There's no impact on the public purse there, and it traditionally uses officers on rest days to avoid impacting local policing and resourcing there. The proposed route that we will look at using for the abnormal loads will commence Port of Liverpool, and will access the site via the M65, A56, B6527 and the A680, and the figure there just shows the proposed route in blue. There will need to be some very temporary minor road improvements. They will take the form generally of removing street furniture such as signage at roundabouts to allow the loads to oversail junctions when they're going through under police escort, and there may be a need for parking restrictions along certain parts of the route. Any parking restrictions will only be required when the vehicles are passing. They're not going to be in place for the full day, and certainly not for weeks on end. An abnormal load transport management plan is to be developed, and this will ensure deliveries are carried out safely and with the minimum of disruption for other road users and residents. The actual timing of deliveries is a matter for the police, but all convoys will travel outside peak traffic hours to help minimize disruption as far as possible. In terms of building on the experience of the previous development, we're looking at working with supply chain partners from the original project to bring some of that valuable historic experience into it and to help inform how things can go better. We are using the same abnormal load access route, but what we want to do is have better engagement and communication with residents about when movements are happening, and certainly from what we understand from the past project, communication could be improved. So we'll certainly be looking at learning those lessons there. Disruption will be reduced through better planning, earlier planning, and the use of local materials wherever possible. And we will certainly try to coordinate with other construction projects to minimize any cumulative impacts that could arise from other schemes. A community wealth fund could be structured to help offset the early disruption in recognition of the communities hosting this project. Our consultation is open until Tuesday the 29th of May, but we welcome any ideas and suggestions that you may have on how we can improve our transport and access proposals. And just now we'd be delighted to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much for your time and for listening to me there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Thank you. And yeah, just a reminder to those in attendance tonight, please do get your questions in as we're going. We've had a couple in to get us started. So Pete, I think this one's probably for you to start with. How will the Community Wealth Fund be managed, and who decides how it's spent?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if probably would point residents to the community benefit charter that we publish on the website that gives a bit more detail about the Community Wealth Fund. But in a nutshell, Community Benefit Fund is something that as the developer, we'd like to put in place, almost in recollection that the communities around Scoutmore and Moor are going to host this infrastructure. I think in particular for sort of communities such as Edenfield and sort of the properties in that neck of the woods that are going to be impacted during construction, particularly through abnormal load deliveries. I think it's important that there's an ability for those communities to sort of benefit, as well as those communities that have the longer term impacts through the operation of the wind farm. In terms of how it will be managed, the detail is to be fleshed out, but what we talk about in the benefit charter is about putting in place a charity that would be completely independent from Cubico and from the wind farm. That charity would be set up around the time that the scheme is coming forward, when it's in construction, and that will be have representatives from the local community representing each of the communities who will decide and manage and govern how that money is spent during the operation of the wind farm, really. I think that was everything, wasn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, what we would encourage residents to do is engage with the consultation and give us ideas around that, because, like I said, it is something we're looking to flesh out, and we're really keen that when the planning application comes in and by the time the decision's made, that there's a very clear proposition to the community exactly about how the wealth fund will operate. But we feel really important that it's important that's co-designed with the community.
Thank you very much, Pete. Will you repair any damage to local roads caused by the construction traffic?
Yes. So what we'd be looking at putting in place is a wear and tear agreement with the local road authority. We don't want to be having the public purse being hit by abnormal wear and tear on the road network. So we would agree with the roads authority a survey condition of the road. So before the construction work starts, we undertake a condition review of the road. That would be undertaken at regular periods throughout the construction process, and any areas where the project has resulted in abnormal wear and tear on the road network, we would be undertaking road repairs to bring it back to the standard that we found it in.
That's great.
It's a standard process that we've undertaken throughout the UK.
That's great. Thank you, Gordon. You mentioned the total number of convoys, but can you give an indication of how many vehicle movements there'll be every day?
At this exact point in time, not yet, but that detail will be provided in the transport assessment, in the planning submission. I don't have that number finalised as yet, but that number will be provided in the documentations, and it will be broken down into cars, vans, and heavy goods vehicles and abnormal load movements, and the distribution of that across the network will be laid out for everyone to see there. But unfortunately, I don't have that number to hand just yet, because we haven't quite finalised that.
No problem. And obviously, as the application is submitted, our website will be updated with all those details and links to where those reports are available.
Yeah.
You mentioned outside of peak hours for the transportation. Will those abnormal loads be moved at night or early in the morning, or a combination of both?
Just now, we don't know, because that's a matter for the police. The police have an embargo period for loads coming out of Liverpool that covers the morning peak hours, so we're not allowed to move between the hours of 7 and 9:30. Our preference would be to find a period of time that suits the local community. We obviously want to avoid school periods for pickup and drop off, and we certainly want to avoid, if there are any local events happening, we don't want to be bringing an abnormal load through any of those types of periods. But just now, it's a matter for the police. We can make suggestions on when would be an acceptable time, and if members of the community have got suggestions on what they think would be an appropriate time, we could certainly make that. But the final decision unfortunately is out with the developers' control. That matter sits with the police.
That's great. Thank you. Right, I've closed my window. Will there be improvements to the zebra crossing or other road infrastructure as part of the plans?
I'd need to know which zebra crossing, I'm afraid. But
Right, Gordon, just maybe that I think that actually someone raised that yesterday when we were in Edenfield. I think it was the it's on Edenfield, sort of High Street almost, just
was
below the
that
mini
one right?
roundabout. Yeah, so I mean, it's got a pole in the middle of the road, so I suspect we're gonna have to. It might be worth just advising around or commenting on just removing street furniture and what.
Yeah. So to allow the abnormal loads to go through, there will be certain elements of street furniture we need to demount and take out of the ground. What we've done on other projects there is that street furniture, Belisha beacons, that kind of thing, are fitted with a socketed foundation. So when the load approaches, they can be unplugged, taken out of the ground. The load then goes past, and then the street furniture is put back in place immediately, so that there's no road safety concern lingering. We really don't want to have any, people getting lost or for crossing infrastructure not to be put back in place. When the turbine deliveries are made, they pass at reasonable speed with the police escort. We don't want things just lying around. We want to put stuff back into the ground so that the high road safety levels are maintained. When the vehicles are finished on site and offloaded, they concertina back down to the size of a standard HGV, and they can then proceed back to Liverpool to pick up the next set of loads. And they no longer require all the road mitigation in place. So we will be putting things back as we found them in the morning on that regard there.
That's great. Thank you very much. How will you coordinate with other construction projects to avoid combined disruption?
We have our construction traffic management plan. We're publishing ours early as within the transport assessment documents, part of the planning process. Just now, we don't know exactly when we're going to start on site because we have to wait for the planning system to go through and see what time we get to start on that. What we would like to do is prior and several months prior to even making a start on the ground, obviously undertake consultation with the local highways officers, local planning officers, and with the community to get a good understanding of any other projects that are in the road network at that time, and then talk to those developers, those projects about what combined traffic management measures can we put in place. Is there a phasing element that we can undertake? Other shared proposals that we can undertake to help minimize disruption. It's not in our interest to just plow through where others are working as well. We'd like to work with others and find joint ways that we can minimize disruption wherever possible.
Great, thank you. Cubico has offers from at least 2 user groups to meet on the moors to discuss specific reservations and concerns. When will these meetings take place?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah, probably sort of 2 points in response to that question. I think I'm aware of the 2 user groups in question. I think we've gone back today, at least in regard to one of those. I think in terms of the wider one, look, I've personally been very busy with doing the consultation over the last few weeks, and then the Easter period with annual leave and sort of celebrating Easter. I think back definitely at the coalface now. So I mean, I'm available and we'll be able to meet. I think we are waiting availability for that meeting, but I'll reach out early next week and try and set that up. I think more widely regarding user groups in general, we're moving into sort of the next stage of the common land applications now, and a key part of preparing those applications is more formal consultation with those user groups, if that's Open Spaces Society, bridle rates groups, etc. So we're waiting on a bit more detail on some plans, but we'll be hoping to sort of push forward with that consultation sort of through May and June and into the summer before we submit that common land application.
Thanks, Pete. We've had a rather detailed question through, and I've notified the person who submitted it that we'll get back with specific answers. But just one of the general questions they've asked in their comment is, have you consulted the BHS guidance about horses and wind turbines?
Happy to pick that up. Yes, BHS have been consulted. Certainly part of the IA screening approach. They were also, in terms of that consultation that I referred to a minute ago about common land, BHS will also be consulted as part of that process as well, I understand. I think we're really aware from this consultation, not just from BHS guidance, but through the conversation we've had from various equestrian groups. And equally, I was talking with a very sort of interested local resident yesterday who rides horses in the area as well. I think we've heard very loud and clear like the concerns that there are. We'll be looking to engage the BHS to make sure that we can work with them and take best practice on where wind farms and public rights of way and have been sort of successfully developed elsewhere in the country. And I think that, yeah, that's a key part of making sure that we align with guidance. But equally, I think the key part of that is having a conversation with the BHS as well and bringing them on the journey with us. And then secondly, engagement with those user groups and people who are regularly horse riding on the moor themselves. And I think we're keen to sort of take them through. Hopefully the consultation has begun to give a bit more detail. I think what I would say is that this isn't all the detail. It's a consultation at the moment. The team's working really hard on pulling together sort of a really robust planning application. And when that gets published in the summer, there'll be a lot more detail there about how the wind farm will impact at a construction phase, like how are we going to manage that sort of impact, not just on horse riders, but on walkers, on people using their bike, on fell runners. I think we'll have some make it very clear about how when we're impacting those footpaths or common land, how that will be managed during construction, but then secondly, during operation as well. And I think if residents at the moment want a bit more on this, we did talk on the noise and shadow flicker webinar in a bit of detail really about impact of issues such as shadow flicker or shadow throw on horses. So there's a bit more detail there. Again, we're still at consultation, so the detail will be in the planning application, which will be published in the summer.
Yeah, and just to add, the construction traffic management plan the outdoor access management plan will directly reference the BHS guidance on horses and construction traffic.
Thank you, and thanks again to the attendee who asked that question. And I know they're dropping some resources into the Q&A facility that we'll take a look at. So thank you for that. How will you manage traffic congestion around the A680 during deliveries?
Is that for abnormal loads?
Yes.
I'm guessing. So in terms of that, traffic management, we have obviously the police assisting and making sure that the route is safe for vehicles to proceed. In addition to the police, there are civilian escort vehicles to help guide the abnormal loads, and they will be assisted not just by the haulage firm, but by specialist traffic management teams just to help guide the convoy through so it can be undertaken as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Thank you very much. I would encourage if anyone has any further questions to get them in the chat. Obviously, we have got a little bit of time left this evening, but once we're through the questions, we'll leave it there. So the last question that we've had so far is, what guidance has Cubico received from rights of way officers in the two local planning authorities concerned about the public rights of way network and the impact of the project?
Well, thanks, Ben. Yeah, they would have been consulted as part of the EIA scoping submission. I haven't got their responses in front of me right now, and we're still waiting on the formal EIA scoping response from both Rosedale and Rochdale. We expect that response will cover public rights of way in some detail. We have sought to engage with both the Rosendale and Rochdale public rights of way officers. Appreciate that they're really busy. We haven't yet, despite us requesting meetings, doing our best to try and meet with them, and endeavour to try and do that as soon as we can. But we are talking regularly with both local authorities, and it is something that's very much on the agenda. So I think, yeah, just to summarise, it's sort of waiting for that feedback in the scoping report, and yes, we are endeavouring to speak with them.
Thank you very much, Pete. We've had no further questions through. We can hold on for a minute or two in case anyone's got any questions relating to the answers that we've just given there at the end. While we're doing that, I will say thank you to Pete and to Gordon for your time this evening, and thank you to those who've attended the webinar for giving up your Friday night, especially when it's so sunny outside, and those watching the recording for giving up their time as well. As noted at the top of the webinar, this session tonight was one part of a wider series of events for the community consultation. And we're very grateful for everyone who's participated throughout. Our next job is to review the feedback that we're receiving and provide updates to the community as we move into the next phase of the process. Our community consultation runs until the 29th of April, and I hope that everyone who has not done so already will provide their feedback via the online form. Our website is www.scoutmore2.co.uk, and you can contact the team via email at scoutmore2@havingyoursay.co.uk or via phone on 0333 358 0502. All that information and much, much more, including this recording and the other recordings, is available on our website. We've not had any further questions through since I mentioned. So I think that should conclude our session tonight. Obviously, if you do have questions in the meantime, you can contact the team using those details that I've provided. And again, thank you for participating, and I hope everyone has a good evening and an enjoyable weekend. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.